practice, pondering my next move, staring at my track list, hope I ain't missing my window. Praying like a Baptist, Seattle's own. Tired of this Game of Thrones. They made a list of the best rappers, and guess who wasn't on? While the disrespect continues, I'm steady packing these venues. Guess if you ain't at the table, you on the menu. And I'm that spitter, baby. They don't want you to see, but everybody's out to Capitol Hill's rocking with me. Boys smoke the trays and plan to getting their life together. I'm comfortable with my role, so I'm like, whatever. Me? I ain't got a job, but I work hard. And you don't work hard, but you got a job. The irony is I'm judged while you feel the applause. I'm slept on, that's why I had to set this alarm. My dudes is armed, I'm armed with this arm charm. Body banging like she got that cream from Barry Bonds. Yeah.
I did it for the city, I did it for the love, I did it for the people, I did it for us.
That trade season is here, a real hitter with a mic, I'm everything that they fear. With that hood ain't the same, I was all on their ass, I'm level-headed. So yo, my dudes love when I spaz, and I'm so over Seattle's passive-aggressive attitude. They don't call you back, what they really saying is F you. While I'm from the same place, I move at a different pace. I prefer if you just said it to my face, damn, I did it.
I did it for the city, I did it for the love, I did it for the people, I did it for us.
Average dudes with they average spit, writing average rhymes, knocking average chicks. The closer I get, I can feel the people starting to shift. I'm loyal to a fault, and everybody can't come with. Rap's a rich man's game, I'm only playing with change. They bang models and singers, I'm knocking my own flame, I'm different. The crowd, I move with the chosen few. Black thoughts, I could be the front man for the roots. No diamonds and gold, I'm on my sticks and stones. If we can see your panty line, you should have on a thong. My team is strong, through this fire we forged a bond. And they already know what it is when I get on. To the hearse, party like it's December 31st. When I'm on my deathbed, I probably cracking my nurse. You ain't got the bars to compete. I'm a verbal athlete, deflating these boys so they say that I cheat. Damn, I did it.
I did it for the city, I did it for the love, I did it for the people, I did it for us.
Yeah. I should probably start by apologizing for the long wait, man. You know, I know I be tripping. But I'm not just a rapper, I'm an artist. And, you know, my creative process is a little bit different than most. Nonetheless, I want to welcome everybody out to the Dre's Experience. I got TCF in the building. My whole camp's here with me. I got the band in here laying this cool-ass vibe. And I'm Seattle's own. Let's get into it.
All right, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. I want to welcome you to the Morning Update Show. My name is Omari Salisbury, flying solo again today. Treyana Holiday has the day off. Want to remind you right now, this is the perfect opportunity to tag and share the stream. Go ahead and tag and share the stream with people who you feel could appreciate culturally relevant news and information emanating from right here in the Emerald City. We got a full show for you today. We've got Joe Todd joining us live. Joe Todd is running for Renton City Council Position 1. So we're going to hear from Joe Todd about his platform, what's going on out there, and why he's running for Renton City Council. We're also going to be joined by Marcus Harrison Green, the publisher of the South Seattle Emerald. The Emerald's getting ready to turn 7 in a few days. And we're going to be joined by our very own Besa Gordon. And Besa is going to be telling us about a new show, a new segment that she has there on Cube 93. So lots of live guests today. You know, we always like to talk to people here on the Morning Update Show. Man, we're going to get into it on a national story here. Back down there in Elizabeth City, North Carolina. We've got a clip here from CBS this morning. And also the judge, it's not here in this clip, but the judge ruled, I'm going to tell you, a hole is to dig. The judge ruled not to release the body cam footage to the media, but allow just the family to see it, man. So I'm pretty sure it's going to be a big problem. But this is from CBS this morning.
The FBI is launching a civil rights investigation into the police killing of a black man in North Carolina a week ago. Newly released surveillance video shows sheriff's deputies arriving at Andrew Brown Jr.'s house before he was shot. A judge plans to hear arguments today to decide if body camera video from the killing should be made public. Manuel Bojorquez is in Elizabeth City, North Carolina, where protesters returned to the streets last night. Manuel, good morning.
Good morning. We were there as several of those protesters were arrested last night for violating the city's curfew. This was a newly implemented curfew. The city manager explained to us was necessary because outside groups have started to come in and they felt tensions were growing. But several of the protesters we spoke with thought it was unnecessary because for a full week now, their protests had been peaceful as they continue to demand the release of that body cam video.
New surveillance video shows a team of deputies riding in a sheriff's department truck on its way to arrest Andrew Brown Jr. on drug charges. This is just seconds before Brown is shot. Family attorney Ben Crump said the video showed, in his words, a militarized police force rushing to kill Brown. Just moments later, this video shows deputies surrounding Brown's car, riddled with bullets after it hit a tree. The crucial events between these two videos is on the not yet released body camera footage. The family says it will show an execution.
It was a kill shot to the back of the head.
Crump, the Brown family, and other attorneys released an independent autopsy which shows Brown suffered 5 gunshot wounds, 4 to the arm and 1 fatal shot to the back of the head. Brown's son Khalil Farabee saw just 20 seconds of the body camera footage Monday.
It's obvious he was trying to get away. It's obvious. And they gonna shoot him in the back of the head. Man, that's not right. That's not right at all, man.
The county sheriff says that under North Carolina law, a judge must sign off on the public release of body cam video. And even if a judge makes a decision on that today, there's no timeline on when the video might be released. In the meantime, North Carolina's governor wants a special prosecutor to take over the case.
So, like I'm saying here, I think that this judge has made a very bad decision not to release this body cam footage to the public. By the sounds of things, the body cam footage is probably very, very bad, but it's best to just get it out there as opposed to sit on it. And again, this is why people are calling for like federal guidelines around policing. I mentioned this before in the city of Seattle. Is the law is that the cameras have to come out within 72 hours, no matter what, if there's a police involved shooting. So the public is confident that in no more than 72 hours, they'll have the footage out. And oftentimes the footage comes out much faster than 72 hours here in Seattle. We saw there in Columbus, Ohio, their footage came out in about 12 hours or less. But down there in Elizabeth City, North Carolina, like I said, I went to college in Elizabeth City, and actually the city manager down there, I went to college with him as well. Man, North Carolina, you got to have a court order. It's indefinite timelines and everything else. And so we see this inconsistency in around policing. And so we'll keep an eye on that story. Keeping it with policing, though, the Seattle Police Chief Diaz, along with the mayor's office, they're talking about the Seattle Police Department is in a staffing.
Seattle Police Department. Well, Seattle Police Department says it's in a staffing crisis after dozens more officers walked away from their jobs. The mayor's office is cautioning the city council against additional cuts to policing, blaming budget uncertainty for the exodus. King 5's Ted Land spoke with SPD's interim chief. And Ted, what is the department doing to try to boost its ranks?
Well, Greg, they say they're hiring more officers, but they say it's difficult to keep staffing levels up. And they point to remarks that departing officers have made in their final days working for SPD.
The Seattle Police Department says 66 officers have left so far in 2021. Some of them retired early. Others left for policing jobs in different cities or positions in the private sector.
We are in a staffing crisis. I mean, we are at record lows in the city right now. I have about 1,080 deployable officers. This is the lowest I've seen our department.
In exit interviews, many of the departing officers point fingers at the city council and a general anti-police climate as reasons for leaving. Others criticized SPD's leadership. The council's considering new cuts of more than $5 million to SPD's budget. They trimmed police funding last year after nationwide protests over mistreatment of people of color. Activists applauded the reductions and called for more. The mayor's office said in a statement Tuesday, based on exit interviews, we know the council's threats of continued layoffs or cuts are having a direct impact on decisions to leave the department. Mayor Durkin continues to caution city council against making additional one-time cuts without addressing hiring and retention of officers, especially diverse officers, to respond to the highest priority calls.
We need investments in our community, but we also need investments in our police department.
Interim Chief Diaz says SPD is hiring more community service officers and crime prevention coordinators to handle non-criminal calls. But he says he's concerned additional frontline officers are on their way out.
I'm hoping that it starts to level off. I do see that this year we could have a significant amount of people leaving.
Councilmember Lisa Herbold, who chairs the committee that oversees the police department, said in a statement that the council has fully funded SPD's hiring plan for 2021, including dollars to hire 114 officers the department is requesting. Greg?
So I know you mentioned the 66 officers the department has lost so far this year. Last year, they lost quite a few as well.
Yeah, it was actually a record year. They lost more than 180 sworn officers in 2020. That's far more than in any year over the past 2 decades.
All right, King 5's Ted Land, live force in Seattle. Ted, thank you.
All right, so officers are leaving the Seattle Police Department, right? And here's the problem, right? I mean, clearly they're leaving, and Chief Diaz, I think he's sincere when he's saying like, "Hey, I need this many officers to patrol the streets and everything else," and this is why they're making noise. And the mayor's office has chimed in. I'm gonna talk more to the mayor's office today. They sent out a press release yesterday, and also I'm gonna reach out to Seattle Police Department. But as usual, here in Seattle, people ain't telling the whole story, right? The whole story is that up until May 25th and the murder of George Floyd, the majority of this city council right here loved the police. And actually a few of them ran on more police and increasing officers, more budget and everything else. The majority of the city council was all for police. George Floyd got murdered, right? People protested, but one thing that's being left in this conversation is that, man, the citizens of Seattle didn't like the police violence that they witnessed on June 1st. Like June 1st, when this tear gas and everything came out, changed the sentiment of people in the city who put pressure on their city council members. Now, is city council taking it too far? Are they acting crazy? Maybe they are crazy at times. Who knows? But they're leaving out an important part of this story, that this same city council that people are throwing under the bus right now around this issue and whether they want more money in or more money out, this was a city council that almost uniformly supported the Seattle Police Department. It was the reaction of the citizens at the extreme police violence that was experienced out here in the streets. There was 20,000 OPA cases open, or 20,000 people reported to OPA. That's a reflection then in the city council and how the city council acts. So some of the city council, I don't endorse all this stuff they're doing. A lot of this stuff, I can't even follow it because it's a lot. But the whole breakdown is this: the Seattle Police Department and the mayor's office can't just put out releases saying oh, well, you know what? Officers are upset because they don't feel that they're being supported by city council. Because, man, there's a lot of people in this city who SPD lost their support because hundreds of thousands of people witnessed police violence in real time. And the best way to have this conversation is really, I think, for the mayor and Chief Diaz to really acknowledge that, to acknowledge hey, the Seattle Police Department lost the support of city council, who unanimously, almost unanimously supported them, lost the support of a good portion of Seattle, especially you had Carmen Best here, this Black woman police chief. That support was lost when the tear gas came out up on Capitol Hill. And on top of that, what else is never acknowledged is that the Seattle Police Department abandoned their own precinct. It was not under attack. We was out there. Nobody was asking them to leave. They left their own precinct, which then led into Chaz and led into Chop. man, I challenge the mayor and I challenge Chief Diaz. Let's have an honest conversation. And the city council, let's have an honest, holistic conversation as to what's really occurred here over almost the last 12 months. And there's a reason why the sentiment of council members and the sentiment of the general public, a lot of the public turned against the police because they couldn't believe that ass whooping that the Seattle police was dealing out day after day after day against peaceful protesters. So, you know, I'm all for public safety. You know me. But I really feel that like let's have a total conversation here, and let's really put this timeline in place, and let's really pinpoint to where attitudes and positions against the police came, and then maybe we can solve problems. But as long as people just kind of cherry pick on these things, then you got other people who are like, nah, that's not what happened. You know what I'm saying? And so I say all this, not endorsing city council or endorsing what Chief Diaz wants to do, but just as somebody who saw this whole timeline here and noticed that that's a big part that's missing in the conversation. Man, I've been blabbing on and on here. Let me go on to my next one. Okay, so we got Joe Wynn. And y'all, I said Joe's name wrong yesterday, and his people, they serious on the internet. They was coming for me. You know what I'm saying? So I'm giving Joe a make good. Here's Joe Wynn's ad. He's running for King County Executive.
It's been 16 years since King County was renamed after Martin Luther King Jr., and I believe it's time to live up to our namesake. It's time for us to fight for what we believe in. My name is Joe Wynn, and I'm running for King County Executive. It's time we build a new vision for our region, a place grounded in equality and serves the needs of all people. Together, we can overcome any challenge, and right now, our challenge is to build a better future. We can change the policies that make the rich richer, while leaving the rest of us behind. What we faced this past year has given us a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to address what the pandemic has exposed. Our communities continue to cry out for police accountability. It's time for the executive's office to lead the way and get it done. Homelessness has been an emergency for over a decade, and nothing seems to change. We need solutions now because everyone deserves a safe place to live. Families in King County work hard every day to improve their lives. They deserve a leader who will work just as hard for them. Dr. King understood the fierce urgency of now. It's our turn to step up and get things done, because tomorrow is today. This is our time to fight for the future we want to live in. My name is Joe Wynn, and I'm running for King County Executive, and I'm asking for your support.
Paid for by friends of Joe Wynn.
All right, so that's the make good there. I was calling him Joe Gwynn yesterday, and man, like I said, his people go hard on the internet. This is Joe Wynn. There's your make good, Joe. Can't wait to get you here in the studio, and let's talk about your platform for King County Executive. Last clip here before we go to break, and we're coming back with Joe Todd. I talked to Mayor Durkin about this gun violence epidemic that we're experiencing here in our communities. And, you know, wanted to talk to her about how come there isn't more of a conversation occurring, like on the city level. You know, how come more elected officials aren't engaged in the conversation?
I have been struggling with this, I'll be honest, a little bit to see how do we catalyze that kind of community response. You know, I meet with the chief of police every week and look at where we are on each of the areas. And it became really clear by middle of last year that our homicide rate was going up. And again, disproportionately, it was Black men who were being killed, and often Black men who were the suspects. And reaching into those communities to find solutions rather than just pretending it doesn't happen, because every one of those lives is a brother, an uncle, you know, their family, and it impacts the whole community. I mean, I was surprised. On other programs, I spoke about the trauma of, you know, at 23rd and Jackson, having that shooting that even a 2-year-old was hit. and why that doesn't catalyze a broader discussion. So I think we need to have that discussion. I know this, my heart believes that if we had that same level of gun violence and trauma happening in the North End and the University District with young men the same age, there would be a whole city catalyzed against it. And we have to have that same sense of duty and obligation, and both the sense of grief for the families and the outrage that we as a city let it happen. And I think that that's a conversation we have to start having as a city. If we don't change the fundamentals of what our expectations can be for our kids and the futures they can have for neighborhoods and mothers and fathers and uncles, we won't change what matters. And so I think we have to have those conversations and talk about what are approaches that can work? How do we get people talking honestly and support them both in their grief and their trauma, but their empathy? As a mom of 2 kids, I have to tell you, my 2 sons, I think every time about the mom first. And I know that's my own bias, but I don't know what I would do if it was ever my son. And I think about how do we make sure that for every mother, we ensure their kids have the same opportunities that I had as a kid and that my kids had.
All right, Seattle Mayor Jenny Durkin right there. If you guys can't tell, you know what I'm saying? I'm pushing the line on this about, Mayor Durkin, every time I've talked to her about this, she's had something to say. I mean, it's a lot of other elected officials, no sense of empathy. They don't exist. It's not part of their overall strategy. You know what I'm saying? And so these young Black and brown kids that are dying, that are being murdered, it's not on their radar. But I'm gonna keep pushing from my end, for real. You know what I'm saying? Converge, we're gonna keep pushing. All right, we're getting ready to take a break. When we come back, we have Joe Todd. Joe Todd is running for Renton City Council, position 1. You are watching the Morning Update Show.
I did it for the city, I did it for the love, I did it for the people, I did it for us.
Back on this rap ish, I ain't even broke a sweat, homie, this practice. Pondering my next move, staring at my track list, hope I ain't miss my window. Praying like a Baptist, Seattle's own, tired of this Game of Thrones. They made a list of the best rappers and guess who wasn't on? While the disrespect continues, I'm steady packing these venues.
Converge Media produces culturally relevant content for Black and urban audiences. Our coverage is raw, transparent, and objective, praised by community leaders, government officials, and residents. Support Converge Media today via Venmo, Cash App, or PayPal at Converge Media.
All right, welcome back to the Morning Update Show. My name is Omari Salisbury, and right now we're going to be joined by Joe Todd. Joe is running for Renton City Council, position 1. All please bring in Joe. Hello, good morning.
Good morning. How you doing?
I'm doing good, Joe Todd. How are you?
I'm good. I'm glad to be here. I'm excited for the invite.
All right, good to have you here this morning. All right, well, before we get into the question and answer, I'll give you a minute here to introduce yourself to our viewing audience and tell them why you're running for Renton City Council, position 1.
All right. So a little bit about my background. So I am originally from Mobile, Alabama. We moved here about 20 years ago and, made Renton our home. I'm steeped in the community. My wife is a school teacher for 20 years. I am currently the deputy CTO of King County. I was the chief information officer for the city of Tukwila. I worked at Boeing for 15 years, Alaska Airlines. So I'm really a part of this community, and I want to see this community thrive. One of the main reasons I'm running is the biggest reason is if we're going to have systemic change, we have to have people within the system trying to change the system. We don't have enough marginalized voice. We have marginalized communities who do not have a seat at the table, And we need to make sure that we have a seat at the table before we can change some of these issues that we have around police accountability, around homelessness, around the way that our communities are being treated when it comes to economics. So purely, I'm running to make sure that we have a voice at the table and to try to change the system from the inside.
Right. And so maybe you can tell us in a little bit more detail what are, I know you mentioned things broadly, but what are some specific issues there in Renton that you would like to see changed or that you would like to impact?
So specifically for me, some of the key areas are around the police department and accountability. We want to make sure that there's a equity commission put in place so that there is a real accountability around policy that gets delivered to the community, as well as oversight of the police department when it comes to the public submitting issues around police brutality and those types of things and complaints. One of the other things is as well, the city of Renton is behind the curve. They try to say they're ahead of the curve, but the city of Renton is behind the curve when it comes to doing some really key things around how you make police better. So for instance, they're talking about body cams are too expensive. They're spending $2 million on take-home cars, but they don't want to put the money into body cams. Things like we've got a guy, his name is Trevor Davidson, who spent time hanging out with a Proud Boy and had business with a Proud Boy, and he's still employed by the Renton Police Department. They did an investigation, and he said he thought it was a patriotic organization and didn't know that it was a right-wing hate group. And it's those types of things that that cut away at how the community feels and about the police department and about the city as a whole. Other things, we really need to think about homeless from a regional perspective. Renton is going at it on its own. King County has come up with some great ideas around how we can solve homelessness in this region. And for folks experiencing homelessness, it's a regional issue. And so for Renton to think that it can go out on its own, form some kind of policy that's going to make Renton much better at it than Seattle or Kent or Bellevue or any of the other cities within the King County, it's just ridiculous. And so those are some of the things I'm really pushing for.
Right. Yeah. Like, man, if they can't get body cams figured out, good luck trying to figure out the homeless issue.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I know that Renton can make an example of, yes, when some individuals that were in Seattle, not necessarily from Seattle, were in Seattle, were placed there at the Red Lion Hotel. And actually the councilman we were running against, Corman, was one of the people who was very much opposed to that housing, that homeless shelter there at the Red Lion. But I always like to point out to people in these discussions around homelessness is that the majority of people who are in Seattle that are experiencing homelessness these days, they're not necessarily from Seattle. They're from the region. And what's crazy to me is all these suburban cities like Renton, guys want to do it, go on their own and everything else, not realizing that the Seattle homeless population is made up of a lot of people from these cities, and then sit back and then want to talk trash about Seattle. Oh, Seattle's dying. They're looking for the soul. There's homeless people everywhere. And I'm going to continue to say, suburban King County, if that's the case, come get your people. You know what I'm saying? Because that's the way that it's kind of rolled out, around this homeless issue. So, I mean, it's interesting to hear you say that you would back the Regional Homelessness Authority.
Yes. I mean, if you really, so personally, I've spent time working in homeless shelters. My church was providing homeless shelters for men, and the stories of the folks experiencing homelessness was nuanced, right? You had guys who were working construction jobs who couldn't afford to have a place to lay their head at night. You had guys with substance abuse who have been, on drugs or on alcohol for years and just needed someone to actually sit with them and help and say, hey, I hear you. I think we need to get some wraparound services for you so you can be successful. And so Renton has this. I remember I was on a call with the chamber recently, and we were supposed to be having a discussion in a forum around what we were supposed to do about homelessness within the city of Renton. And one of the community members said, you know, the homeless are like bears. You feed them and they'll stick around. And I was blown away. I could not believe what I was hearing. If you can't look at this issue and focus on it with empathy and compassion, and knowing very well that you yourself could be homeless, given something happens from a medical issue to losing your job, then I don't know who you are. You shouldn't be. You should not be part of making policy here if that's your perspective.
For sure, humanity at times is at an all-time low. I want to ask you a question here around your background. I mean, you're big in STEM and technology. You're what? You're information technology officer with King County. You're also there previously with City of Tukwila, and then also Alaska Airlines. One of the things we see here in Seattle, and I guess you could say in the Puget Sound area, is that Black people have been left on the shore while tech rides the wave. And you know, one of the big things we see is, in Seattle, average Black household makes $42,500 a year. Average white household makes $105,000 a year. I'm very happy for them. I don't want them to make less. I just want us to make more. Coming with this background in STEM and IT and technology, and knowing that payday that's over there, how would you, if you're elected to city council, work with kind of encouraging young people there in Renton early on to expose themselves to these high-paying careers? You know, one of the issues that we have here is that a lot of our young people were not exposed to tech and IT and everything else, and so they get out, they could top out at their job at like 70, 80,000, where somebody working at Amazon's like at 160, 170,000. How is your lived experience in IT? How are you going to use that, man, to encourage young people to get into tech?
So I think one of the issues you'll find is that young Black kids, young kids of color, don't see people who look like them in these positions. They don't see Black developers. They don't see Black executives in technology and high up in positions in technology. And so they don't see that kinship of where they can go into an industry like this. And so that's been my goal for a long time, is making sure I'm having conversations with kids around technology, let them see me, and help them understand that there's a wide number of jobs that you can get in the technology industry. One of the things I bring up all the time when I talk to students, our Black kids are like aces on social media most of the time, right? And I remember when I was at Alaska Airlines, there's a whole group there that's responsible for managing Alaska social media across the board, making sure that if customers are engaging with the airline from a social media perspective, that they're getting feedback from folks that are behind that are on the front line of Alaska, trying to make sure they're getting what they need. And then there's software developers. If you want to go to that extreme side and want to do software development, there's project management. All these aspects of the technology industry, our kids need to be taken a part of. And one of the main things I do is I get in front of these kids, I help them understand that these jobs are available, and then actually give folks opportunity. One of the cool things we did at the City of Tukwila when I was there, we put together an internship program that invited the local teams to come to the city and partake in jobs for an internship. And we had several kids come through our technology division. And one of the coolest things is that we had a young kid, really wasn't exposed to technology. We brought him in, found out he was brilliant. And now this young man got direct admittance into the School of Engineering at UW because he spent 4 years working in that technology department, learning about tech. And so one of the main things I want to do for the city of Renton is utilize my vast Rolodex of folks that I know in the technology industry, having them come talk to different organizations within our community, but also bring jobs to our community, right? We have good resources here in Renton, and I think that these technology companies could take very much advantage of those.
All right, Joe Todd, candidate for Renton City Council, position 1. Real quick, tell people how they can keep up with your campaign.
So you can keep up with me at votejoetodd.com. Once again, that's www.votejoetodd.com. You can also get to my Facebook page. It's at Vote Joe Todd. It's Joseph Todd for Renton City Council. And you can also see Joe Todd for Renton City Council on Instagram and also on Twitter.
All right, Joe Todd, thank you so much for joining us this morning. I'm sure we'll be checking back in with you before the elections, man. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to take a quick break right now. We got Marcus Harrison Green, the publisher of the South Seattle Emerald, back there in the green room. Also, Besa, you said Besa's in the green room too. Ooh, everybody's mad at me. I kept them waiting. You know, was ranting about this SPD staffing issue. We're going to take a quick break right now. You're watching the Morning Update Show.
I did it for the city, I did it for the love, I did it for the people, I did it for us.
Back on this rap ish, I ain't even broke a sweat, homie, this practice. Pondering my next move, staring at my track list, hope I ain't miss my window. Praying like a Baptist, Seattle's own, tired of this Game of Thrones. They made a list of the best rappers and guess who wasn't on? While the disrespect continues, I'm steady packing these venues.
Converge Media produces culturally relevant content for Black and urban audiences. Our coverage is raw, transparent, and objective, praised by community leaders, government officials, and residents. Support Converge Media today via Venmo, Cash App, or PayPal at Converge Media.
All right, welcome back to the Morning Update Show. And now, Alia D'Alessandro, please bring in Marcus Harrison Green.
Hey.
Marcus.
My man. Oh, how's it going, brother?
I'm okay. Welcome back to the Morning Update Show.
Man, bro, this is like the Arsenio Hall show back in the day when Eddie Murphy would be on, man, and they just had that camaraderie and connection, brother. That is you and me. I won't say who's Eddie and who's Arsenio, but it's all good. It's all
right,
good.
As long as you don't hit us with the whoop, whoop, whoop.
We ain't throwing it back that far. Nah.
All right. So, we thought it was a big deal on March 19th when we celebrated 1 year of the Morning Update Show. And actually, in the month of May, we'll celebrate our 4th year of Converge Media. But, brother, 7 years. The Emerald celebrates 7 years tomorrow, man. Tell us about it.
Yeah, man, with 7 years, we're on our Tom Brady, without some of his political beliefs. But yeah, 7 years tomorrow. Sometimes it feels like 70, but seriously, tomorrow is our huge birthday anniversary event that you all happen to be producing over at Converge. Ijeoma Oluo will be on there. She's also a board member of ours. You'll be on there, so I'll get to chop it up with you some more. And then we'll also highlight 3 of our, top contributors, and Mike Davis, who also, does double duty with you all for Clapback Culture, Carolyn Bick, who is our watchdog or watch dragon reporter, and Chloe Collier, who's one of the best photojournalists in the world, not just in the city. And it's just really a celebration of our community, the hard work that has gone into 7 years. I was just talking to, honestly, my mom earlier today, who, again, wanted me to express how much she loves your show. But man, I'll tell you, like that first year, the Emerald, sitting down in a dining room table with her, we didn't have anything other than just a WordPress site. And I was, busy, trying to write an article. I was like, I came from the financial world, and, I have a business degree. I didn't even have a journalism degree. And, just believing that we could really tell stories about our community that weren't being told anywhere else. And, I went through my savings to, try to start the Emerald. My mom was like, look, I don't have a ton of money. My mom and my dad, and it was like, I don't have a ton of money, but we do have a place that we can, let you stay so you can save up and donate, and put all your money essentially into the Emerald. And my mom, served as my copy editor and editor at the time. And it was really just the two of us, which then blossomed into more and more people getting attracted to the type of journalism that we were doing. really humanizing the news, not treating people as one-dimensional stick figures, but as human beings, and which, has been a dearth of that coverage at the time in our community. And, here we are 7 years later.
Yeah, I'm glad that you told that story there, because I was going to ask you, I wanted you to make a contrast and comparison, so people really understand the reach and the impact of the Emerald as this this publication that started there in this donated space from moms and pop and everything else. Tell everybody, like, what is the Emerald reaching right now? How many people is it impacting?
Yeah. So I'll tell you this story really quickly, man, from where we started, right? So when we first started, I remember it was we were covering, I think it was 6 months into the Emerald, and we were covering the state senator race in the 37th district, and that was Pramila Jayapal's first race. Pramila Jayapal is now a congresswoman in the U.S. Congress, and is obviously fairly big time. But at that point, that was her first race, and it was obvious she was going to win. To anybody who all the experts and so forth. And so I remember talking to her, because at that point we didn't have a ton of readers, right? It's 6 months in, where we just had word of mouth. And so after I get done interviewing her, she's like, "Hey, well, how many folks read the Emerald, read your publication?" I was like, "Well, I mean, if you include myself, it's like me, myself, and my mama." And and I was like, "There's no way that she's gonna, can boost this out or anything like that." And she was like, "Oh, hey, that's cool. Everybody has to start somewhere." And literally the next day, I saw a quote that she had from the piece that I wrote on her. It was on her campaign flyer. Knowing that, as a nonprofit, we couldn't endorse her or anything like that, but it gave us a signal boost, and that went up to like 20,000 or some odd people in the district. At that point, that was, the highest for that year. That was like the highest, awareness that we had ever gotten, around 20,000 folks. That's the first year, right? Last year, we had record readership, 2.4 million folks. We're on pace to have to double that this year. We get over more than 300,000 folks reading us per month, at this point, and and that increases every single month. So to go from literally my mother's basement to where we are now, I mean, I'm still in the basement, but it's one of my choosing. It's it's just been immense, and it's just a testament to honestly the community that continues to support us. We're not unlike some other organizations. We don't have huge grants from huge foundations and millions of dollars and so forth. Really are dependent on every individual giving a little bit every month to get us to continue to sustain and exist.
Wow, man, this is big. You talk about incredible growth and incredible reach. Tell everybody again all the details for tomorrow.
Yeah, so tomorrow we will be doing our huge anniversary show. It will feature Ijeoma Oluo, the Big O, and my man who I'm talking to right now, and then 3 of our contributors. There'll also be some musical guests, surprises, some tributes from community testimonials. That goes from 7 to 8 p.m. on all Converge platforms, all Emerald platforms. So you can catch it on YouTube. You can catch it on Facebook. You can catch it on Periscope. You can catch it, anywhere. Heck, I'll do a audio version of it for you if you want. I'll come to your crib for 10. If you can get me $10,000, I'll replay the whole thing to you. As a one-person show. So you cannot miss it. Please do not. Goes from 7 to 8 p.m. tomorrow, and it's going to be a wonderful event.
See, that's why the Emerald gets the big donations. You hear that? He said he'll go to the crib. I might need to run with that. You know what I'm saying?
I'm telling you, bro. I do just want to say one. I do just want to say one thing before I get off, man. I mean, I gave you all those numbers in terms of our increased readership and reach and everything, man. That at least half of it, I have to say, is attributed to the partnership that we have with you all, man. I remember growing up, and I can't reiterate this enough, and how oftentimes, Black-led media didn't always play well and nice with each other. that, you know, didn't necessarily always want to even partner. And to be able to have you, man, and, you know, walking alongside me and your team, it's just such a blessing. I've told this story before, and I want to make sure to give, you know, leave enough time for the queen who's coming up next behind me. But just a quick story. I remember when the morning show was first starting out, and you know, I was on there. This is, you know, before all the protests and everything like that, and you had reached out to me after I was interviewed by you, and you said, "Hey, man, can we connect?" And at that point, there was just and can we connect and partner? And at that point, there was just so much going on that I didn't have a chance to get back to you until after the protests and movement and everything else that happened with George Floyd. And by that time, bro, I mean, you had blown up to, you know, be bigger than, you know, The Rock, Dwayne Johnson. And I was like, there's no way that he is, you know, going to honor, you know, this partnership at this point, because it was like, man, he doesn't need us anymore. And I just remember emailing you, had my tail tucked between my legs. I was like, man, I'm gonna get a fat hell no, right? And you didn't bring up anything. You were just like, yeah, you know, I'm a person of my word. Let's do this. And you know, I can't tell you how much that continues to mean to me, man. It's you tell somebody, you can tell somebody's character by, you know, where they're at in great times and where they're at in bad times, brother. And you've always been there, good, bad, indifferent. And so I just wanted to say thank you.
Man, I appreciate you, Marcus. And, you know, thanks for sharing that. And hopefully, I think we can say factually that the city, the Emerald City as a whole, has definitely benefited from our partnership and will continue to do so.
Yeah.
Marcus Harrison
We
Green.
still together, as they say.
You are Arsenio. Hey. Marcus Harrison Green, we got to let you go. Looking forward to it tomorrow at 7 p.m. right here. Anywhere you're watching the Morning Update show, you catch the Emerald Turn 7 tomorrow at 7 p.m. Thank you, Marcus.
All right. Much love, Prince Akeem. Talk to you soon. All right, brother.
Wakanda forever.
See you tomorrow, my man.
Oh man, we're gonna take it. We got Besa in the green room. We gotta get her up. We're gonna take a quick merch break. Let's do a merch break real quick, and we'll bring in Besa Gordon. You're watching the Morning Update show. All right, welcome back to the Morning Update show. Oh yeah, D'Alessandro, please bring in Besa Gordon. Besa. My apologies, Queen. I kept you waiting.
All good. Let me fix my lighting. You know how I am about my lighting. We don't do bad lighting around here. This will do for now. This will do.
Yeah, and so, you know, usually on our motion graphic, can you play my handcrafted motion graphic? Now you see there. So usually it says Rewind with Besa. Today it says radio host Cube 93 FM, because actually we have some music news that you're going to deliver for us. And it's a good thing for, I hate the term local artists, but I don't know what other term to use, but artists from right here in the Pacific Northwest. It's always hard to get on radio, like no matter what, even with a label deal, but especially even harder without one. Tell us what you got going on over at Cube 93.
Well, since you asked. So when I first started at Cube, I really wanted to be able to highlight new and local artists that I just feel like are dope and that people should know about. And finally, I have gotten the okay from my boss. So starting May 5th, 2021, so basically next Wednesday, every Wednesday at 10 p.m., I will play one new local song that I feel that you should know about. It's my way of highlighting PNW artists and then just general up and coming artists. Like for the most part, it is going to be all PNW music that I play, but every once in a while I'll toss in something that's like not from the PNW. But yeah, for the most part, it's just all local artists. I'm excited.
Well, this is good. You know, you get a lot of. I've been directing the rewind with Besa on these Saturdays. We had Mac and Todd, we had Mookie, we had Holly Michelle. You get a lot of feedback from these artists across the Northwest. I mean, it's almost like a suicide mission. You sure you want to do this? Because you know everybody gonna be in your box with these records.
They're already in my box. So what's up? We might as well just take it up to a new scale. You might as well give me the ability to put it on the radio. Like that's why I started doing, the blog post artists you should know about. The artists you should know about, because I couldn't play it on the radio. So it's like, well, if I can't play it on the radio, the most that I can do is blog it. So that way you have your music at least on a radio station's blog, and then do an interview if I really think that you're that dope. I mean, obviously, like you're dope enough if I blog you, but there's levels to it. There's levels.
All right, this is good stuff. And also, it's you've talk about this ecosystem here real quick, because a lot of stuff that you do over here on Converge with the Rewind with Besa as well goes over there to Cube 93 and then comes back over here to Converge.
Yeah, the way that I kind of see it nowadays, Besa Gordon is her own little brand, if you will. So I kind of just feel like I should be able to nestle everything together. I actually talked to my boss about it recently and was like, look, if I'm not able to do interviews here and I'm already interviewing these artists over at Converge, can I please start posting these, on the Cube website? And he was totally down for it. So basically what I do is I do the interviews over at Converge. I'll post a clip of it on my Instagram, and then I'll post that clip on my Cube blog, but then I link it back to Converge for people to watch the full interview.
Look at you, Besa. You're just doing it. Okay, so the first episode is next Wednesday at 10 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
And have you already selected? You don't have to tell us, but I'm just curious. Have you already selected what you're playing next week?
I'm not telling nobody. People will find out who I'm picking, whether I pick them now or I'll pick them over the weekend. People will find out who the artist will be that I play Wednesday at 10 p.m. on Monday at 10 a.m.
Well, I'll tell you this. I know that you fought for this in any market in America, and this is definitely a bit tougher one than others to go into mainstream radio play, especially a giant like iHeart. I mean, that's not easy in any market, and even to convince program directors to be open for that, because a lot of time, you know this business better than anybody. So I know that I used to do radio promotions years ago, and it's tough to get just one spin somewhere. So, I mean, I applaud the fact that you're making space for local artists over there at Cube 93. I mean, you doing what you're supposed to be doing to be in that position, and that's to open the doors for others. So, it's good stuff, Besa.
Thank you. And even more so, I have to applaud my boss for trusting me and my earlobes to not just put anything out there. You know what I mean? He's not I'm not saying that I don't have to get his approval for the song, but I am saying that he trusts my instincts and, what I deem as to be something good enough to be on air, to where he's not okay, I need to hear every single song that you're going to post. You know what I mean? Unless I have a question about it, I can get, his second approval. But otherwise, it's just okay, just make sure it's edited.
That makes two of us then, because I definitely trust your instincts as well.
Well, thank you.
All right. Before we let you go, how can people follow you on social media?
Besa Gordon, BesaGordon, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. I just hit 2,000 followers on TikTok, so definitely follow me. And of course, you can hear me on Cube tonight, 7 p.m. to 12 a.m.
All right. Besa Gordon, thank you so much.
Of course. Thanks for having me. I'll talk to y'all later.
Bye-bye. All right, man. It's a full show. What you say? It's almost quitting time. Oh yeah. Huh? Well, a little bit early, huh? Okay, well, we're doing good. So, you know what? I did have something here, and I put a note here. I wasn't able to make a slide on this, and I should actually go to break, but we won't, because I'm just stubborn like that. Oh, okay. Well, Omari, find the email in time. So, but I wasn't able to make a slide for this, but we'll have a slide for it tomorrow. But just information from the census, the census information came out. Can I get this one? The census information came out, and a few things here. 6 states gained a seat. So Texas gained 2, Colorado 1, Florida, Montana, North Carolina, and Oregon. So Oregon gained a seat in the House of Representatives, and 7 states lost a seat: California, Illinois, Michigan, New York, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia. The state with the highest population increase is Texas, up nearly 4 million. The fastest growing state since 2010 is Utah. Yeah, a lot of people moving to Utah, huh? The most populous state, no surprise here, is still California, with just under 40 million people. And the least populous state, Wyoming, 576,000 people. These numbers are really interesting. And of course, the census dictates a lot, especially where all this cheddar, this feta, this cheese from the federal government goes. So we're going to discuss that a little bit more tomorrow. Also tomorrow, no motion graphic, but tomorrow we're joined by Paula Sardinas. Paula Sardinas will be on air. And then I think we got a representative from SDOT as well. That's about it for me today. As usual, I want to thank you for your support. We really, really appreciate it. Also, a reminder is that you guys, we really stay on air by donations. So donate if you can, where we converge /donate. Also, a good way to support the cause is pick up some gear, pick up a mug, sticker. That's where we converge /shop. Looks like that's it. So I want to remind you to go forward in your purpose and go forward in your humanity. And until tomorrow at 11 a.m., peace.
Lift every voice and sing till earth in heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of a new day.